Hi there, my name is Elgin. I am the Community Manager for Mozilla Hubs, and today I'm going to be giving you a very quick tour of some of the features and functionalities of Hubs so you can use it for the IEEE VR conference online. So when you get to the website, it's going to look a little bit like this. You have the list of all the different rooms at the bottom, and that's where all the conference sessions are going to be. They're not all loaded up yet, but when you get back here for the actual conference, they will all be listed here for the different sessions. You can find out more by clicking on these I buttons, which gives you more information, and you can see how many people are actually in the space at any given time. If you did want to create your own breakout room, so if you wanted your own private hangout space, you can create a room up here at the top. But right now I'm going to stick to looking at these public rooms. So to enter into a room, I just have to click on the picture. It'll load. The very first time you come in, you will need to register using the same email address that you used to register for the conference. It'll just send a magic link to your email. You'll open it up and you'll automatically be logged in. So no passwords to worry about. And then you'll find yourself on a page like this one. Right now we're in the lobby of the Hubs room. That means that we can see what's going on inside of the room, we can hear what's happening, but we're not actually in the space yet. If we want it to be just a fly on the wall and watch, we can definitely click this watch from lobby button, and then that allows us to still move around. We can see what's happening in the space, but we're actually not visible to anyone else in the room, and we can't voice chat with anyone. So we can send messages using the text chat, and we do show up in this list of members inside of the room, but we're not actually represented as an avatar. Anyways, that's not very social. So if you want to actually join into the room, we'll go back to this page here. And there's two different buttons. So one of the really nice things about Hubs is that it does not require any software to be downloaded because it runs in a browser. This also makes it really cross-platform compatible because you can get into it on almost any device that has a browser. It works on most modern browsers and across most platforms. Now, the way that you send a link to a room to someone is super easy. You just you can either click the share button at the top or just send them the URL from the address bar here. If you're trying to get in on a standalone device, so if you're using an Oculus Quest, for example, that has no wire to go to the computer, you probably know what a pain it is to write in a really long URL. So this first button here is so that you can click on it, you get a short code to get into the space. Makes it a lot easier if you're using a wireless headset specifically. Now if you're on the Quest, you can either use the built-in Oculus browser or you can use the Firefox Reality browser. For most people though, we're going to end up using this Enter Room button. First, it's going to prompt us for mic permission so that we can speak to everyone else in the space. And if it's your very first time in, it will also prompt you for your username and for an avatar. Here you can do a little bit of audio setup. And I'm going to click Enter Now. If I was on a wired-in desktop computer, if I was on a wired-in desktop computer or wired-in desktop VR experience, I'd also have the option to enter in VR, but because I don't have one connected right now, I can just click on this Enter Now link. And so now I'm in it in the two-dimensional desktop version of Hubs. Once I'm in the space, I'm going to want to probably look around. And so to do that on my computer on the desktop, I can click and hold my left mouse button and move it back and forth. And I can also use the Q and the E keys to be able to kind of jump my view back and forth by, I think, 45 degrees or 30 degrees or something is the default. So that's one way to look around. If you are in a virtual reality headset, you can obviously move your head back and forth. You should be also able to do that same jumping things using one of the buttons on the controller, although it kind of depends on what controller you're using, so I'm not going to try to guess which one. And if you're on a mobile phone, just use your finger to sort of drag on the screen to look around. If you want to move forward on your desktop, you can use the W, A, S, and D keys. Or you can jump to different places using the right mouse button, which will bring up this green line, and that'll let you teleport to different spots in the room. For moving on a mobile phone, you just use the pinching action, and to move in VR, you'll just use the joystick on the controller. So here I am, I'm in a space, I'm having a lot of fun, and I want to go have a conversation with someone. So right now, by default, I'm muted, but I can click on this button, and that will unmute me. And so I can go up to people and chat. I do recommend that if you are on a desktop computer that you use headphones if you can, because it can be a little bit echoey sometimes with the different conversations happening. So just to be mindful of that, I recommend using headsets. But if you don't have one, that's not a problem. You can always just make sure that you're muted if you're not talking and unmute yourself when you are talking. Let's see, what else do I need to say? So Hubs uses spatialized audio. That's kind of one of the exciting things about it. And so the closer you are to someone, the louder they sound. And so if you want to have a side conversation, you can just move away further from the group and chat in another location. If you are having trouble with kind of the levels of people's volumes, etc., you can also fine-tune that a little bit by going up to the person in space or finding them and putting your controller over top of the avatar and then pressing either the space or the tab key. If you're on desktop. If you're on mobile phone, you can use 2-finger tap. And if you're on your Oculus Quest or some other headset, you can use one of the buttons to open this up when you're pointing at the person. This will let you adjust their volume, so making it louder or quieter. And that will only change the volume for that individual, for you. It will not affect the way that anyone else in the room hears it, so you don't have to worry about, turning up a person too loud. That's not a problem. There's also this button for hide. So if you don't want to see someone, you can hide them from view. This is really helpful in case there's someone that's kind of like, I don't know, bothering you. But I would recommend very, very strongly that if you're attending IEEEVR, there are a ton of volunteers and moderators that are around. So if someone is bothering you or maybe doing a code of conduct violation, please find one of the volunteers or someone who's part of the staff in the Slack channel so that we can come and actually assess the situation and remove the person if they're bothering other people. So you can, of course, hide, but it's probably best that we actually remove them from the situation, so not everyone in the room has to hide them from view. If you do hide someone by accident, it's not the end of the world. Just refresh the page and come back, and they will be visible to you again. You'll also see at the bottom of my screen that I've got a bunch of emojis that have just popped up. So this is a way to express sort of excitement about things or emotions about things when you're in VR. So all you need to do to be able to select these is open up the secondary menu. So again, using space or tab on your computer, or using 2-finger tap on your phone, or in VR using one of the buttons depending on the device, and it'll load up these emojis that will spawn. And those are really fun for doing like clapping at conferences, etc. And they just last for a few seconds. And the harder you shake them, the more particles come out of them, which is kind of cool. Now, speaking about sound, a lot of people during the conference will probably have videos. So I've got an example of a video here. And when it's playing, maybe it might sound a little bit too quiet for me. So I can always increase the volume or decrease the volume depending on what I think. And I just do that by hovering over the object and choosing the plus or minus sign. If you want to be a little bit more precise about the way that you're fine-tuning voices versus sounds, or like media sounds in the room, there's also in the preferences pane a way that you can adjust the incoming voice volume and versus the media volume. Personally, I really like doing that because depending on the device that I'm using, I find that sometimes voices are a bit quieter than the videos, etc. And so I fine-tune it a little bit so I don't have to be going around and adjusting everyone's volume every time. So how you do that is up to you. Once again, that's just in the drop-down menu from the upper left-hand corner. The videos also have a secondary menu, which has more information about like moving things around and like placing them inside of the room, as well as this presenter view, which I'm going to talk about in a future video where I talk about the presenting tools. But I just wanted to let you know that that was there, and that there's also this open link option. So if you wanted to open a video in a second window or a second tab so you could go to it later, that's definitely a good place to look. And then I've got this like 3D object of a fish tank just to show you that it also has the same secondary menu that you can open using the space or tab key. And also to show kind of one of the cool things about Hubs is that you can bring in a ton of online content. So to bring in videos or 3D models or images, PDFs, all you need to do is paste in a URL when you're clicked into the browser, or if you put it into the text chat here and press this like space or the magic wand that's here. And that'll let you create any sort of web content. Now, of course, for IEEEVR conference sessions, just to make sure that performance doesn't get kind of bogged down by a bunch of objects in the room, for a lot of the talks, the object creation tools will be disabled. So if you come in and you find that you can't do that, that's the reason why, is just because of performance reasons. But if you do create your own room from the homepage, you'll be able to bring in any sort of media you want. There is also options to be able to share your screen or to share your webcam to show people what you look like. You can use the media browser to find different 3D models and objects. There is a drawing tool which lets you draw things in space, and it also works as a laser pointer, so if you are presenting, you can show people, kind of direct their attention to things using the laser pointer. And then there's a camera for taking selfies and taking pictures of other things in the room. You'll notice when I speak also that my head kind of bobs up and down, and that's how we represent who's speaking inside of the room. So the last few things that I want to draw your attention to is if you do want to change your avatar, you can do so in this drop down. So you can change your avatar right here or your username. You also have in the upper right hand corner a list of the different media in the room. So for example, if you wanted to take a closer look at an object, you can just hover over the object from the media browser, and that lets you sort of inspect it and just see it from a different angle in case it's obscured. I don't think that functionality is available in VR, but on desktop it's really, really handy. In VR you can just kind of scoot up really close to things and take a closer look. There is also an icon in the lower left-hand corner, and that is for adding your room to favorites. So if there's a room during the conference that you expect that you'll be going back to multiple times, like maybe you set up your own room and you want to be having personal meetings in it, then you can just save it using this favorites button. And if you want to invite other people to the space, you just have to click the share link and copy and paste that over to folks. So that kind of summarizes the basic features of Hubs and how to use it and how to make sure that the volume is correct when you're inside of a space. If you do have any questions, I'm sure you can post them in the conference Slack, and there will be people around, volunteers around to help you. I can't wait to meet you all at IEEEVR, and have a good conference.